Hello everyone, for this book review Wednesday, I am going to be briefly discussing the play Othello, which is by none other than William Shakespeare. This is a fan request which was requested relatively a while ago, but I wanted to finish off the books that I've already had within my library before I took fan requests, and so this will be the first fan request of books. And I'll sort of go in order as they were requested to me. But without further ado, let me discuss Othello. The interesting thing about Othello is usually when we think of Shakespeare, we usually think Hamlet, Macbeth, or most notably Romeo and Juliet. Now, the interesting thing about Othello is that it combines several different kinds of things that sort of tie in with Romeo and Juliet. There is sort of a romance and a marriage within the story, and there is also plotting and revenge and these elements seem to be at the forefront. However, the bulk of the story is based within the, I guess you could call it, sin of envy or jealousy. Like Romeo and Juliet's love is sort of blossomed through the hatred that ultimately surrounds them, Othello and his wife within the play sort of revolves around this similar notion, except it is ultimately destroyed by jealousy rather than Romeo and Juliet being destroyed by hate. So there is these similar things that Shakespeare, I think, tries to tie in with his plays, and I think this one, Othello in particular, I think people would associate with as being tied to certain things that are involved with a plot like Romeo and Juliet, as well as things that have been a part of a lot of other Shakespearean plays. But this one in particular, I think, stands out for the fact that it has this sense of not only understanding aspects of jealousy, but certain ways of manipulation. And you will see how manipulation, which ends up resulting in Othello becoming jealous, is really what is at the centerpiece of the sort of story. And you sort of see how there are people within this play who ultimately try to really destroy Othello's life, so to speak, for very selfish reasons. That's not to say that these reasons can be somewhat justifiable, as you'll see within the play, but they still are presented there, so there is sort of some context for the sort of antagonists of the story. In particular, Iago being the main antagonist here. And the difficult thing about Shakespearean plays is usually it's just difficult to discuss because ultimately I don't really want to reveal what ends up happening. But basically, Othello's jealousy revolves around him believing that his wife committed adultery. And this really takes up the majority of the play. This is really what drives the play and what sets all the events in motion. So it's really what the main point of the play is trying to get across, is this aspect of jealousy and sort of rage and violence, and how that really destroys any potentials of a relationship. So there are these things that I think Shakespeare brings to the forefront that can be as powerful as Romeo and Juliet. I would say, though, that the Othello and his wife's relationship are not as, I guess, maybe compelling as Romeo and Juliet's, because it is really emphasized in the Romeo and Juliet play that they do love each other. But with Othello and his wife, you really don't get the sense of bonding or a sense of talking about how much they love each other. It doesn't seem like it tries to be a romantic play. It is trying to be a play that is focused on this aspect of jealousy and rage, and how this ultimately results in murder and various other consequences because of jealousy and suspicion. And I almost want to say Othello blindly is sort of blindly jealous, like he never really he just accuses his wife, and he doesn't really try to figure out if that's really ultimately the truth. He just believes that she did something wrong. So there's no further exploration on his part, and he's just really blinded by that jealousy. And they see how, and really Shakespeare does as well, really taking the blind jealousy aspect and putting that into the play. And you'll sort of see this with the way he writes and the events that unfold within the play that show this really this blind jealousy and this blind rage, without questioning why you are jealous, or what's the point of being jealous if you don't really know the truth, which clearly Othello does not in this play. So ultimately, I think that's really all I can say about this one in particular. Again, this was requested a while back that I should explore a little bit of Shakespeare, and really the one work that was suggested was Othello, and I think this one is a very interesting play. It does keep you sort of suspenseful and wondering what's going to happen and what Othello is ultimately going to do, and what are the other characters going to ultimately do to sort of unravel this plot that ultimately unfolds. But I really don't want to give anything away, because I think that's really this brings in the suspense and really what gets people into the play. So I believe, though, that's ultimately, though, all I can say. But if there are any questions, comments, concerns, I'd be more than happy to answer them. But I hope you have all a great day, week, month, and year. And thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next video.